Up next on the Marmy Rock Show, good friend of the Rock Show, we're excited to have Corky Gainsford back with us. He's released brand new singles with his band Code Red Riot. Corky, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, man, it's been way too long since we talked, and fans of the show already know we love your band. But for maybe that people are kind of new to my show, why don't you kind of give them a little bit of the background of who Code Red Riot is and the formation of the project?
Well, really, Code Red Riot came about after I left Otherwise back at the end of 2015, and I had a bunch of unfinished songs and unfinished demos and whatnot that I'd been working on before I left Otherwise, and figured I would just, record those songs and get them out there. And really, originally, it was put together to showcase my writing ability and recording ability, and I was hoping to, get the word out to produce other bands and write with other bands and that kind of thing. And when I started sending them out to my old record, they were like, man, instead of just doing other people's stuff, you should just create a band around this. So I did. And released a full-length album back in 2018, and then toured on that a bit, and then started working on the second round of material, and that's what I've been releasing near the end of 2020 here, the last few months.
So let's kind of, you mentioned Mask came out, and then here comes the new music, which I want to ask you about. So let's dive into that a little bit. Tell me a little bit about Impossible. What's really cool about that song to me, it's like, I feel like it's 3 songs in one. It's like that little different style changes in it.
Totally. Impossible is a funny one because it almost made it onto our debut album, but it just wasn't quite right. And so when it didn't make it, I was like, man, okay, what's wrong with this song? And was able to give it some time, and really it was just like rewriting some of the music around it, restructuring the riff, but keeping the vocals the same. And then I sped it up slightly and did a few little tweaks, but it's just one of those things where I'm trying to think. I think that song came out of the verse melody, and then I was writing music around it, and then trying to figure out where the light parts, where the heavy parts, all that kind of stuff. It's that song. There's some songs that you write in 5 minutes, and there's some songs that take many months and years to kind of make sense, and that was one of the ones that was written and rewritten a few times to kind of sort it all out. But it's just, I tend to write, or I have a habit of writing in one dynamic. Like if the song's loud, it's loud all the way through, or if it's quiet all the way through. And Impossible is really a fun one to kind of stretch quiet dynamics, loud chorus, even louder, riff sections, and then like an ending that was just absurd. I had a lot of fun with.
Now, another one that just came out in a totally different style is Weapon, which has kind of a rap rock feel to it. And so tell us a little bit more about that and where the rap rock influence comes into your music.
Totally. Well, it was funny, like, rap was kind of what I listened to first before rock. This is like when I was growing up, and when I started playing drums, my dad was the one that was like, hey man, if you're going to be a drummer, like, you got to listen to like this rock stuff, because that's what you drum to. You don't really drum to hip-hop stuff. So I've always had rhyming ability, and rhythmically it's fun to do because it's the closest form of singing to drumming. So I just have a lot of fun rattling off a lot of words and rhymes. And when that song came about, that riff came from the guitar player I've been working with, Chris Iorio. He kind of came over and was like, hey, I got this riff that I'm working on, and he was kind of singing the little ideas of what he thought the melody would be, and I was like, nah man, I'm going to record the riff and then come back in a couple of days and I'll have something for you. And that song was written in like 5 minutes. Like once that riff and the chorus was down with the guitar riff, I just kind of heard what I thought the vocal should be. So it was really, really quick to write it. And then the bridge, which is the only kind of departure on that song, that one took me months to sort out what the bridge would be. I think I wrote 5 or 6 versions of that until I finally settled on what it would be. And again, it was one of those things where, like, when I did the first record, the first debut record with Mask, I had a bit of a vision for it, but when I signed the record deal, record labels will tend to kind of steer you and try to get things to what they think the audience is going to hear, which sometimes ends up deleting ideas of what you want to do.
Yeah.
And these songs that I've been releasing, there's like a freedom to that where I'm not beholden to anybody. No one's telling me what I can or can't do on this stuff. So if I want to write a bridge that's a complete departure, or if I want to write an ending that's weird or whatever, in terms of traditional songwriting, there's no one there going, I don't think you should be doing that. and the funny part is like, you know, my instincts on a lot of these things, like, if it's not right, I'll just write a different version. That's why I say, like, I literally like 5 or 6 different bridge sections to Weapon, till I came up with one that I was like, that's pretty cool. And it was the weirdest, farthest departure of all the ones that I tried, but that was the one that seemed to make sense to me. So I'm like, all right, well, let's give that a shot. And then, like, you know, same with the ending on Impossible. And these songs have been getting just as good or better response as anything that I've released. So it's been exciting to kind of get them out there and experiment and stretch on what I've been doing.
Now, you mentioned the rap influence in your background, and then yes, I guess that's going to be the answer to the question, but I was going to ask you, what prompted you to release the remake of the House of Pain tune that just came out?
It was funny, man. That when we finished the first record and finished doing the tours and whatnot, like, I needed to start recording something to get, like, the creative juices flowing again, the studio flow going again. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do a cover. And I enjoy doing covers that are a bit left field and, you know, having the freedom to rework them a bit. So like when we did Rebel Yell with Otherwise, like that was the one where, you know, I was like, hey, Ryan, can you do like this arpeggiated classical kind of thing? And let's do it like halftime. So, you know, it just, I like putting twists on stuff. And Jump Around's one of those songs that, like, not only is it really well known, but there's a lot of freedom in the music behind it on how to reinterpret it in a rock setting. And so I just was like, well, let me just record this. You know, it'll just be an experiment for fun, and I'll goof around with it for a bit. And so I did this early demo, and this is I kind of was fooling around with it before we even released our first album. And we played it live, and everyone, of course, it was like the most well-known song that we were doing live, and everyone was like really responding well to it. So I was like, well, maybe I should just kind of finish this song. So it was really the first song that I finished leading into this second batch of material, but I didn't want to release it first because it was a cover. So I, you know, was releasing Weapon and Impossible first, and then figured it would be a fun one to follow up as a third release. But it leads me to like I have a full record of material recorded. Most of it is done. Some of it I still need to do some tweaking with, but I'm releasing it all as singles just to kind of like be able to release stuff over time and be, you know, it's just so much what the model has turned into, and especially during like, you know, quarantine and this pandemic and whatnot. Like, if you can't tour and you can't do shows, the only way to really stay in people's minds is to kind of have something to talk about, some new to release, another video, another song, that kind of thing. And it's kind of the model that Spotify is kind of forcing a lot of bands into anyway, where in order to get on their playlists, you have to, or you can only promote one song at a time to get on their playlist. So if you release a whole album, you can only promote one song, and the other 9 songs will never get on one of their playlists. So you have to release them as singles. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's funny. It's frustrating to not have all the music out there, but it's fun to kind of keep planning for and launching a new song at a time. And if I can, I'll do a video for each song, which is a lot of fun. So
hey, speaking of videos, man, I was going to ask you about that next. I really love the video for Impossible. It's funny. I did last week on my show, I did a look back at what I called the glory days of MTV, when the videos were really cool, and that video kind of reminded me, like, it had a little bit of that in it. Tell me a little bit about the making of that video.
It was funny, man. Well, like, kind of backtracking, like when I was doing Weapon, that song was ready to release, and I was on tour with Blue Man Group for like the second half of 2019 and all of 2020 up till everything got shut down. So I was doing that video in hotel rooms, and I was finding stock footage online and all that kind of stuff, and spending a lot of time to research it and editing and that kind of thing, and it took a lot of time, and when it came to do Impossible, I was like, all right, I gotta figure out a way to get this video done, but without spending weeks and weeks and weeks on doing this. So I just started researching people that do lyric videos on Fiverr, right? You were like FIVERR.com, and found a dude in Mexico that was like, specialized in hard rock and heavy metal lyric videos. And I was like, well, that's cool. I can just do this lyric video. And he mentioned, as I'm talking back and forth with him, he goes, hey man, do you have any like footage of the band doing the song? And I'm like, well, not really. That's why I was doing a lyric video on this, because we've all been shut down and don't have any footage. And he's like, well, if you have any footage you can send me, I'll incorporate that into the lyric video. And so that night I called everybody up, and the next day we just came over here and filmed everybody performing the song. and then there's this like weird tunnel a block from my house. It's like a big drainage tunnel, and I was like, oh, it'd be fun if I could shoot in there. So I'm literally like, the footage of me running through the tunnel, I'm holding my GoPro and my cell phone in one hand, filming with the GoPro, lighting my face with the cell phone light, and and running through the tunnel to mouth the words and sing the words. And so I just sent this dude a whole lot of weird footage, and then let him put it all together. And he did a great job. And then he sent it back, and then I threw it back into the video editing and threw some more like weird shakes and transitions and crap on it just to make it like extra fun, and it was a fun little process. Totally different. And then and I didn't know what to. The best part about hiring someone I completely didn't know was like, I really didn't know what to expect of what it would turn out like. So we were just like shooting from the hip, and it was a lot of fun.
Is it a secret, or is the masked drummer behind the in there somebody we know?
Oh, it's someone you know very well.
For my listeners, it's him. So
yeah, exactly. I've had to do that a few times, where just like when the way things are working out, like if you notice in our video for Bulletproof, there's a masked guitar player in there, and the guy with the mask kind of shoots around and does different things in the band. You never know where he's going to end up.
Hey, I noticed another thing. I know you're a great artist, and I saw some cool looking merch, and I wondered. I particularly like the Space Army shirt you got out there. Did you do those artworks? Is that your artwork of theirs?
Some of it I've done, and some of it I hired people out to do. Some of it there's so many cool resources on the internet, and I always feel like I find them and I'm like, why didn't I know about this like 2 years ago? You know what I mean? Like when you find resources, like, and
right.
So like the Space Army one, I actually found on a website where you can hire T-shirt artists, and those artists will often have designs that they did for some band and the band didn't end up purchasing, right? Gotcha. So like, let's say for those graphic artists, a lot of times like maybe they'll do 4 designs and one of them will get purchased, and then they're sitting there with another 3 designs. They're like, well, these are still good. So it was a design that someone had been sitting up there, and I was like, I love that. I want that design. And just totally, hit the dude up, and it's really, really cool to just find resources like that. So one of the shirts we have, I sent a guy, same thing, I found him on that site, and I just sent him a sketch of what I was looking for, and then he just kind of made it up and made it look pro, which is great too. There's so many resources out there that go around like the normal methods of like finding a bigger company and having to use their graphic designers and having to spend several $100s per design and that kind of thing, when honestly, like, there's some dude working out of his house in Thailand that will design killer stuff for like a quarter of the price.
Yeah.
So it's just finding the right resources, finding the right artists, and a lot of times it's finding. It's just like musicians, like finding the artist that does a style that you like is not an easy thing. And it's the biggest thing we make money on in music is selling our merchandise. So it's like you want it to look cool. You just got to find the right guys that are creating the right look.
Hey, one more thing here, man. I know I've kept you a little bit here, but just give me kind of update on. I don't think I know the answer. What's the music industry like in Vegas right now, man? I guess it's rough out there these days, isn't it?
It's completely shut down. Like there's a couple of, I can say a couple. There's a handful of shows that have restarted that are, to put it like, kind of overemphasize the point, but they're basically shows that should be playing for 150 or 200 people, but they're in a room that holds 2,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
So they can space out the audience and have the social distancing going on. So I don't know how the attendance has been. I don't know what the vibe has been like in those rooms, but it's really difficult because like Blue Man Group, for example, which is, one of the shows I play out here, we were in an 800-seat theater, and if we're selling 600 to 800 tickets a night, we need to be in a theater that holds, 3,000 or 4,000 people in order to space people out.
Right.
To it. So, most of the big shows, there's still just nothing happening. The bars keep kind of opening, but kind of closing. You can perform if you are, I want to say it's an incidental ambient music is allowed, but no performances are allowed.
Oh, wow.
So bands haven't been doing anything unless it's like an acoustic person in the corner, that kind of thing. And then 2 days ago they just did another stay-at-home order, so everything's shut down again for another 2 weeks.
Oh,
like they didn't do the major. It was a little bit complicated in understanding. In terms of like, I don't think they shut bars down per se, but they basically said everybody needs to stay at home for 2 weeks, and it's just like, oh god, we're back to that again. So it's been tough, man. Like there really hasn't been anything to do. I've played a couple backyard, parties where, there should have been like 200 people there, but they had 30 people at the party because you got to have a big space, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And it's really it. Everything else I've been doing has been studio work, whether it's been getting called to play drums on somebody else's song, because I can record in my home studio, so I've been doing that some. I've produced a couple bands recordings, which was a lot of fun because it was the first time I was able to record in a long time where I didn't have to play anything. I could just work with these guys and make sure their parts are as good as they can be, and make sure the song is good, and just really take on the producer and mixer role and not have to worry about my performance. I can worry about everybody else's performance.
Yeah.
So just really that stuff, and I just this week launched my own little site where I'm selling T-shirt designs and whatnot too, because I was like, it's that same thing I was talking about. Like, it's hard to find artists doing things that you like, and I'm like, well, I know how to use Adobe products. Like, why am I not designing stuff and just selling stuff myself? So,
sure.
So that bug kind of hit, and I just launched like an online site at deletedesigns.com, and it goes to a site where I got a bunch of designs up, and people can buy everything from shirts to hoodies to cell phone cases to blankets to canvas art to shower curtains, everything. I mean, it's a really cool site because they customize their printing and do it print to order. So
Nice.
There's a million products you can purchase. And it's just thankfully it's another creative outlet and another way to get things out there, and another business to do while we're stuck at home.
Well, man, hey, it's been good talking to you again. It's Quirky Gainsford's been with us, man. Good friend of the Rock Show. He's from Las Vegas. The band is Code Red Riot. Check out Impossible Weapon and Jump Around. They're all out right now. And Quirky, man, thanks so much for being back here again. It's great to talk to you again.
Thanks so much. It's been a long time, man. It's great to talk and great to hear your voice again.